Okay, we're going to open up the Architectural Board Review agenda for July 10th of 2023 and start with a roll call, please.
Chair Moore,
Here.
Vice Chair Six.
Here.
Board Member Anderson, Here.
Board Member Black?
Here.
Board Member Noon?
Here.
Board Member Whalen?
Here.
We have a quorum. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And let's move on to general public comment.
All right. Thank you, Chair Moore. I'll go ahead and start with in-person public comment. At this time, I haven't received any speaker slips, but if you do wish to speak, you can fill out a speaker slip by the back door. I don't see anyone moving to speak in person, so I'll go ahead and move to virtual public comment. If you wish to speak on Zoom at this time, you can raise your hand and I'll call on you. I don't see any hands raised on Zoom, and we also did not receive any general written correspondence, so I'll turn it back over to you, Chair Moore.
Okay, we can go on to the June 26 minutes, please. Do we have any edits, etc.?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as proposed.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? No? Okay, we can take our vote.
All right. Chair Moore?
Yes.
Vice Chair Six?
Yes.
Board Member Anderson?
Yes.
Board Member Black?
Yes.
Board Member Noon?
Yes.
Board Member Whalen?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, and then today's consent agenda.
Thank you, Chair Moore. Today we had 4 items on consent. 215 Pasadas Lane that received project design and final approval with the following comments. That the canopy structure match and railings are painted to match the existing railings. Item B, 2320 Bath Street, proposal for a new wireless communication facility that received project design approval and final approval. Item C, 101 through 149 South Quarantina Street was a proposal to remove a eucalyptus tree that received, that was continued indefinitely to staff with the comment or / condition that the applicant return with the replacement landscape plan. And finally, item D, 326 Rancheria Street, proposal to replace aluminum windows with vinyl, and that was granted project design and final approval. Thank you.
Okay,
I make a motion for approval?
I'll second that.
any discussion? No? Let's take our vote, please.
Chair Moore?
Yes.
Vice Chair Six?
Yes.
Board Member Anderson?
Yes.
Board Member Black?
Yes.
Board Member Noon?
Yes.
Board Member Whalen?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, any announcements, requests by applicants, future agenda items, etc.?
Good afternoon, Chair Moore and board members. My name is Ted Hamilton-Roll. I'm a project planner in the design review section. I just have one announcement to share with you today. Due to board member Olson's term ending, there will be a vacancy. There is a vacancy on the board, and we're going to hold a special recruitment. We're working with the city clerk's office to get that going, and applications will be accepted through August 17th, and there will be interviews and appointments made on August 29th.
Okay, the public can go to the planning website and find more information?
That's correct. They can go to the city clerk's website and get more information. They can also contact design review staff and get put on the right path to apply.
Looking at people in the room, too. Okay, any subcommittee reports? Nothing new to report, I imagine. Okay. I think we can get started. Yeah. All right, so we can get started with item 1, which is 1212 Coast Village Road. This is a proposal for a facade renovation and tenant improvement to an existing restaurant and adjacent office building. No proposed changes to existing hotel building. Minor changes to parking to remove 2 parking spaces, which will be relocated elsewhere on site. Final approval is requested. Project requires compliance with the plans granted project design approval on May 30th. Okay, did we have any notes from last time? Okay. Looks like we are fairly happy. We just want to get those final items, any details, exterior lighting, all of that stuff. Okay. If you could introduce yourselves?
I'm Jeff Shelton, architect.
Maddie Shelton with Jeff Shelton Architect.
Lisette Elenes with ERA Architects.
Katie Klein, Perry Eye Landscape Architecture.
Okay, welcome back.
All right, thanks. So we'll go through like the specific lighting one first, but let's go to the site plan. Just get everyone back.
Well, I think we can just, if nothing has changed,
Okay.
Materially or,
Okay.
footprint-wise, anything
All
gotten
right.
taller, et cetera, if we can just focus on kind of those final
Let's go to the
details.
elevations then. So these, the elevations show where these lamps are going. Maddie, can you point to one there? Like above the doors, and then in the front, there and there, and we'll get to the detail in a second. But this shows where those go on all the elevations. We, of course, have an electric plan, which also locates them. And there, we'll get to the details, see if you like the lamp. We also have some downlights under that, and we're going to show you those. Let's go to, what's our next sheet we have here? Let's go to the details. And there's a lamp, we'll hand make these lamps down the street, and lights going straight down, so we're just going to get an amber glow from these, from the eye level. And they're black, they're on the color board. And there's the color board showing the sconces are black over to the right there. Yeah.
G.
We've been showing you this driveway arch, and so we finally got it engineered. And it's just sort of a telescoping arch. We have the base concrete up to 4 feet in case someone wants to hit it with their car. But the pipes do go all the way down into the ground. So not complicated. It's going to be covered with a vine, but even when it's not, it's going to be elegant. And, it's got a base, a middle, and a top. Let's go to the lighting plan. So this shows what I showed on the elevations. So above the doors, and they're all decorative lamps at this point. We're going to get to landscape lighting. Katie will go through that. But, kind of a classical placement of lamps, just over doors, around doors, where people need to see it, to see and walk safely. Next. Okay, so I'll let Katie go through the landscape, but this shows some step lamps. We have a few steps there, right at the three steps maybe at the street, and this lamp, the downlight this is actually a version that goes to the side of a beam, but it'll have a back on it. So, but they're just inconspicuous lamps that will sit up in the arch and shine right down to that area that people cross where the street where you drive in. We want it to be lit, well lit, and that's the lighting plan. And that's the only new detail was that the driveway arch.
Okay. Any other more developed details, architectural?
We showed those last time, so we can go back to those if you'd like, if you can figure out which sheets they are. And in the color board we showed last time, but we have it again. I brought a few of the samples in case you wanted to touch them. But can you go to there's the details as we had last time. Plaster, awnings, ironwork, just all hand done ironwork, and black And there's the color. Now, that color's too intense right there. Is that correct, Maddie? It was.
Screen is showing saturated.
Yeah, the screen's saturated. That screen's saturated. The computer's more accurate. But typical, I call them sleepy details on the tile, and kind of to match the architecture and the plaster building. And you can go look at the color board if you want to see it again, Maddie. Once again, this is, if you look at your screen, they are less saturated than the one on the wall. And umbrella colors and colors that we've used before also. But it's pretty, the palette is playing off of Clark's restaurant palette that they use all over wherever they have their restaurants.
Okay, any landscape changes?
Yeah, we have a more developed set I can just quickly walk you through. So this is just the cover sheet. If you want to go to the next one, this just shows our tier 1 calculation. So we're under 500 square feet because we're doing all permeable pavers. So all the green is all the new impervious, just to show all the good things we're doing right there. Next sheet. This is the lighting Jeff went over. So we have path lighting more towards where the driveway is, and then the wall lighting in the interior where the patios are. You can go to the next sheet. And the color is just an antique bronze for the fixtures, and then in the archway is black to just be invisible. Here's our irrigation plan. Go to the next sheet. Keep going. Just our details for irrigation. Next sheet. Here's our hardscape plan. So this is just more developed, but this is the same thing you saw last time. So we're doing the permeable pavers, the more tan color for the patios. The front approach, vehicular approach, is a light gray, and then under the arch into the main entrance is a nice alternative pattern, which I'll show you the detail. That's the charcoal and the tan color of paver to kind of bring your eye to the entrance and focus where the pedestrian entry is. We're doing the hoop rack, that image there, which is in the back. You can see wherever we have parking, we're doing just a black hoop rack. And you can't see it from the street. It's in the back of the building. If you go to the next sheet, oh, sorry, Maddie, go back. There's Jeff's stair detail too. If you wanted to zoom in and look on that, it's a huge improvement to the entrance there. So we're using his tile and plaster detail. If you go to the next sheet, the detail 3 at the bottom right, it shows that pattern, that nice, interesting pattern work we're gonna do at that main entrance. And then if you go to the next sheet, this is planting, so a lot of blues and oranges to complement the architecture. We're doing aloe trees at the front, and then also in a planter in the back as well. And it's all low water, 100%, and then the vine, once again, we kept the flame vine, the Pyrostygea orange, to kind of pop against the blue tile. Happy to answer any questions, that's it.
Okay. If that concludes your presentation, we can open up public comment for this item.
Thank you, Chair Moore. I'll go ahead and start with in-person public comment. Just as a reminder, if anyone wishes to speak in person, please fill out a speaker slip by the back door for public comment. At this time, I haven't received any speaker slips, so I'll go ahead and move to virtual public comment. If you wish to speak on Zoom, you can go ahead and raise your hand at this time, and I'll call on you. I don't see any hands raised on Zoom, and we also did not receive any written correspondence for this item, so with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair Moore.
Okay, we can close public comment and go to questions. Mr. Noon, do you have any questions?
I don't, thanks.
Mr. Black?
Nor do I.
Okay. Mr. Whalen?
No questions?
Vice Chair Six?
Yes, can we go to the exterior electrical plan?
Lighting plan?
The lighting plans, sorry. So, very much down sheet on the, first of all, is the trellis, the arched trellis goes all the way back to, oh, okay. Oh, I see. So those little, those are string lights?
Yes, for
Oh,
awnings.
okay, all right, I thought they were in the trellis. Okay, that answered my question. So those are little tiny guys. All right.
And there was a detail on the spec sheets that we submitted for the string lights are proposed.
Okay.
too. They have a little cover.
And the trellis lighting is less frequent than that, is there?
Right.
Yes.
Just to wash that more pedestrian crosswalk, so to speak.
Oh, just at the crosswalk?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. That's all.
Ms. Anderson?
Just can you locate the backflow preventer on the plans?
Sure, yeah. If you go to the irrigation plan, or maybe the planting plan, well, we can go to the irrigation and then the planting. It's hidden by, so if you go to the far east corner, to the front of the street, there's all our utilities right there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Just the one question I had on your sconce, your drawing of the sconce, is there a dimension for the, seem to lack some dimensions on the overall height? Is that?
For the sconce that I drew?
Yep.
Yeah, we scale it from the drawings and
Okay.
and build it.
Is it 12 inches tall, 18 inches tall?
They're 12 inch, the small ones are 12 inch. I think they might all be the same size. Sorry about that.
Okay.
12, yeah. Yeah, it's a full-scale detail. We need to have the plans here.
It's this big on the screen.
You're right.
Yeah. Okay. Any follow-up questions before we go to comments? Okay. Who would like to start with comments? Vice Chair Six.
Yeah, wonderful, fun project, and it's ready for final.
Okay. Anyone else?
I agree. I think it's ready for final design approval.
Is there any dissenting opinion? No?
I maintain just the compatibility, but obviously I want to support the project, so I think it's ready for final.
Okay. Vice Chair Six, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion for final approval as submitted.
And I'll second the motion.
Okay, any discussion? Okay. We've already done the compatibility analysis, so we can just make it.
It was formal at that point?
It was?
Yeah, we're good.
Oh, good. That works.
Okay, so we can take our vote, please.
Chair Moore?
Yes.
Vice Chair Six?
Yes.
Board Member Anderson?
Yes.
Board Member Black?
Yes.
Board Member Noon?
Yes?
Board Member Whalen?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Good luck with the rest of
Thanks.
this.
Now the fun starts. And measure the lamps.
Okay, so our next item isn't on until 3:35. Yeah.
Another minute?
We'd be able to, 15 minutes ahead.
Okay.
We're able to.
We're right on, right there. So if we have item number 2, present. Okay, this is item number 2, 15 South Hope. This is a proposal to demolish an existing commercial building on a 33,910 square foot site and construct a new 4-story mixed-use project consisting of 47 apartments with an average size of 720 square feet, 1 level of subterranean parking. Project is proposed under the AUD Priority Housing and High-Density Housing Overlay Zone. Project design approval is requested. This project is a revision to the development previously approved in 2015. And I think staff has some guidance for us, I think, at this point.
Yes, thank you, Chair Moore and board members. I just wanted to give you a little bit of background because, as you mentioned, this project received final approval from ABR on December 19th, 2016, and then review after final was granted January 9th, 2017. Subsequently, we issued a building permit for the project in November 2021, and so that building permit is still valid. The applicant has come in to make some changes that are primarily interior alterations in terms of the project scope to increase the number of units from 44 to 47. However, there are also some requests to change some exterior materials and some, I think, door and window changes that go with the changes to the number of units. So for that reason, it's back before the ABR for project design approval. And because we have received some public comments, I just wanted to confirm that staff has completed environmental review, including traffic studies, and this project, a traffic analysis. And the project does qualify for an exemption under the California Environmental Quality Act.
Okay, thank you. I think it'd be helpful for the board to have a discussion of what is on the table as far as aesthetics, et cetera, and as far as what previously approved and what is really within our scope of review today.
Sure. What's within the scope are really all of the changes since the prior approval. So every exterior change, whether it's material or window location or size, et cetera. I believe the plans document pretty clearly the approved and proposed, so hopefully that will be something you can clearly distinguish.
Okay. Great. Is that clear for everybody, relatively? Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'm
Yeah.
not clear. On December 19th, 2019, last time we were compared to before and after. So the before images that we saw last time have the terracotta tile on the facade. And that was approved by the full board and full process and in full review, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Anything else to add? Okay. If you could introduce yourselves.
John Kuykendall with DMI, agent for the applicant.
Scott Walter, architect with Office Untitled.
You could hit that on button there.
Oh, there you
That's right.
go. Scott,
Yep.
Just-
You got it. Okay.
I'm Scott Walter, architect with Office Untitled.
Christiane Jordan, architect with Office Untitled.
Okay. Welcome. If you could walk us through your changes.
Yeah, so thanks for having us here. We thought we'd start with addressing the comments from the last ABR hearing, which was about a year plus ago. So I thought I'd walk through those initially. That's how we were going to approach it. Let's see. Okay. There we go. So the previous ABR comments, so the first comment was that the proposed changes to the unit count, massing, cafe area, and small square footage additions appears to be acceptable as proposed. So obviously we didn't make any response to that. That's self-explanatory. The second comment was the applicant shall study how to bring the previously approved detailing back to the project. And on this, I think there might have been a little misunderstanding from the last hearing. Most of our detailing had not changed, but was fairly consistent with what had previously been approved. And I believe one of the points of concern from looking at the renderings was the depth of the windows. And I think maybe the renderings didn't illustrate as clearly as what the intent of the actual details is. So what had been in the previously approved and permitted drawing project was windows with a 3-inch offset, so they're set in to get the shadow line. And that hasn't changed from what had been previously reviewed and approved. Another comment was that the applicant shall study wrapping the northwest corner of the project with terracotta tile. So in this quadrant or corner of the building, some of the tile had been removed as an effort at cost savings and constructability with the project. We've subsequently added all of that back exactly where it was asked to be, and have addressed that. The fourth comment was the applicant shall study finding additional landscape opportunities along the south property line. So in some of the rendering that was shown last May, this wall here was shown without vegetation on it, unlike previous renderings, which was an oversight. And so we've come back with the rendering showing the vegetation on this wall, and as well have brought plans to illustrate. This is the landscape planting plan where we have planters along that area to provide for the plants to grow along that wall, and then as well there's plants to grow up on this kind of trellis area here. So we've addressed that concern. One other comment was to provide plaster over the proposed CMU block on the south elevation, and this is the same elevation. This is actually intended to be concrete, board form concrete, and I think at the last hearing there was maybe a misunderstanding of what that material was. In fact, it was intended to be board form concrete, so we've clarified the drawings to illustrate and document that. This wall is the same wall that will be ultimately covered in vegetation as it grows over the years. And then the last comment was to coordinate the three-dimensional renderings with the project elevations. We have gone through and tried to match the renderings with the elevations more. I think so there was in the round last year some misses of coordination, so we've gone through and tried to do that generally across the board. So that's the kind of addressing the comments from last May. I'm not sure how much more detail I should go into for like the rest of the whole project. I know it was discussed at that time, or if this is sufficient to address concerns.
You should just make sure that you're adequately describing the changes that you're proposing to make. So if that's it.
Yeah, so the changes that had been, there are no new changes since last year. This is what we were here is to address the questions that had been raised previously.
Mm-hmm.
The changes that had been made previously, so when it was submitted last May, were to give a little more variety to the unit mix, so adding 2 bedrooms, or previously I believe we just had studios and 1 bedroom, so now we have a little more mix, a different mix of 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and studios. One of the changes was the replacement of an outdoor patio area with 1 unit, which was on the back side of the building and only visible from behind the building, the 3 elevations. Otherwise, no change to the building volume or material. And generally, the building materials, from the terracotta tile to the plaster and the board form concrete, have remained the same. There haven't been any proposed changes in that basic palette. And yeah, I mean, primarily the unit mix, and then there was a very small commercial space that was turned into a resident use amenity area. So there's no longer any commercial use on this project.
Okay. And all of this has been coordinated through the architectural set and all the other consultant?
Yes, and we've actually submitted all the documentation required for final approval. So we're prepared for that as well.
Can we put our motion up on the board just to confirm we captured everything?
Oh, I just had it.
Yeah, you had it.
Pretty sure.
Okay. Well, if that's it, anything to add to that?
No, I think it was, just to go over what he was saying, it was mainly a programming change primarily with the unit mix. After some time, they decided to get rid of the commercial area, make it a residential amenity, and then they have almost a roughly 33% mix of studios, one bedroom, two bedrooms, and then the conversion of the upstairs or the top floor deck to one unit.
Okay.
So it was just decided by
Okay,
the
great.
client to do that.
Well, let's open public comment.
All right, thank you, Chair Moore. I'll go ahead and start with in-person public comment. At this time, I do have one request to speak, so we'll start with Jason Day. If you could make your way up to the podium. You'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Hello, testing. Well, I want to thank the board very much for going over this project and giving me the opportunity to speak. I know it's not easy. I live in the condominium complex literally feet away from this project, and my main complaint was the fact that they were cheapening the project by taking the tile out, you know, and just making it white. And then also, too, the building has been leveled. There's nothing there right now, so I'm not sure what they're doing. And also, too, it would have been kind of nice if the coffee shop was kept there. I mean, I don't know. And I appreciate you holding them, you know, to the requirement to keep the lipstick on the pig at least for, you know, the tile. And anything else? Nothing. This has been about the fourth or fifth or sixth time that they've actually come back, and I've noticed that every time they come back, they cheapen it a little bit. So, anyway, I appreciate you guys' efforts in holding, you know, Santa Barbara standards to this project, and I know it kind of slips in under that high density thing. So, it's obviously won't win any architectural awards, but you know, hey. How else do rich people keep getting rich? By doing projects like this. So, you know, I get it. So anyway, I just want to thank you and for your time.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone else?
At this time, I haven't received any speaker slips or any further speaker slips, so I'll go ahead and move to virtual public comment. If you wish to speak on Zoom at this time, you can raise your hand and I'll call on you. I don't see any hands raised on Zoom, but we did receive a few written correspondence from Mike Shin, Brandy Zender, and Bonnie Perkins. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair Moore.
Okay, let's close public comment and go to questions. Mr. Noon, questions?
No questions.
Mr. Black?
I guess I need a little more explanation about that south-facing wall where there was going to be landscape. Is the landscape going to be above and it cascades over, or is there going to be planting below and it grows up?
Yeah, the intent is that the planters are on grade, so this is like the ground floor level, and these green boxes are the planters that would be planted with, I don't recall the vine species that the landscape architect has specified, but those would grow up along the wall and cover that wall ultimately to try to get to that level of texture.
So those planters are, I guess I'm just not real clear about this. So it looks like the planters are away from the perimeter.
So
how's that working?
The dark black line
Yep.
along here, that's the edge of the building.
Okay.
The grid is a paved walking surface, and the planters, those green rectangles, are sitting on the paved walking surface in front of the wall.
And then show me the wall that this is cascading over.
It's growing up.
Oh, I see, up.
Up. Yeah.
Got it.
If there's a detail associated with that planter, this would be the time to show it.
We don't have a detail available right now, assuming that, the vines, so on this area here, there's a kind of mesh, a wire mesh that they'll grow up on around the stair. But here, the thought was that they're going to just grow on the surface of the wall. Like a
And
creeping fig that kind of holds onto the wall.
so you'll come back with, you're only here for PDA, correct?
We were hoping for final as
It
well.
doesn't say that on the agenda, but, or does it? Does not. So PDA is the best you can do here. So when you come back for final, then I know you've got landscape plans because I sort of looked at them, but I don't remember what that particular vine was, but I just wanted to be clear.
I don't have that.
What we submitted.
I thought that you guys added those plants that I could hold the.
This is just for the presentation, but you have the.
Yeah, there's one
Yeah.
detailed.
I thought you guys had like stuff at the very end. Okay. No, that's fine. I'll just pull up the one.
As I remember, I think I reviewed some,
Yeah.
than what I saw online, but,
That was a supplemental application.
Yeah.
okay.
So,
All right, well, I can examine the final when you come back for final then as well. So I'm done with questions, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Whalen?
Sure, thank you, Chair Moore. Picking up on Member Black's comment, are those planters in the ground or are they a fiberglass tub?
Yeah, they're a on-grade planter. There would be most likely a fiberglass product that is, painted a complementary color.
So more specifically, are the plants rooted in the ground or are they in a freestanding planter?
They're in a freestanding planter.
They're in a freestanding planter, all right. So if you, with the indulgence of the board, I have a number of questions. First to staff, Allison, are there, when I read the Upper State Street guidelines, and I was not at the May 31st meeting, so I want to announce publicly, I did watch the video and I read the guidelines so that I would know what's going on, and I am a little perplexed about what's going on. So first of all, the guidelines talk about public access to the CRET from the site or elsewhere. Was that reviewed by site or how is that addressed?
I don't recall offhand with the original approval how that was addressed. This project has changed quite a bit since then. There was, at that time, access from State Street through, there's a panhandle. I don't recall if that was open to the public, though. I don't believe so. I think there was an exit pathway for residents to get out to State Street. I don't recall if they were able to come from State Street into this development.
Those guidelines talk about a creek awareness area on State Street, which is where the now taqueria is, but that doesn't seem to be the case with interpretive panel telling you where the creek is, so that's not happening at all. All right, then. Back to other questions. I'm concerned about this cafe change from public to private because the guidelines talk about a non-specific resident amenity that is to improve the public streetscape and community benefits of commercial economics. So if it's not a public cafe, it's turned private, and that doesn't seem to comply with the guidelines. So with your indulgence, I'm a little confused about that. That's section 3.5 in the guidelines. The guidelines talk that it should facilitate a lively pedestrian activity and that projects over 2 stories will feature pedestrian amenities. That seems to have disappeared from this project. So that wasn't really a question, that was a comment. Well, it was sort of a question about how it fits in with the guidelines. Let's see. Well, those are the questions for now. Thank
Okay.
you.
And I think it's important for the board to remember that the project has an approval, and these are kind of big picture, larger than our scope of review that's in front of us today, I think. So,
Understood.
Vice Chair Six, any questions?
Yeah, I'm still confused with what was previously, one of my comments on last review was to dial this back to the previously approved detailing, and so I'm very confused. So my questions remain. The black flashing on top of the parapets throughout, was that part, both color and material, part of the approved design
I believe that it was.
in that color?
Yeah.
And then you can scroll down and see previously.
And that also, so that is what? Is that,
There's a dark accent.
This
There's
is-
a dark.
this is the
accent.
previous approved?
This is from December 19th, 2016. That was.
2016, okay.
Yeah, that was the original.
And so that also goes for the black flashing around the windows extended out from the tile.
Correct. That's correct.
And I see in the rendering here, the trellis above on the roof was also in that approval, correct? As designed, no changes to that design?
Correct, yeah, it's a kind of a wood joist trellis.
It's a wood joist.
Wood joist,
It's
okay.
now reading as a metal joist, a metal trellis on the final plans.
Yeah, I'm not
If you look at
I mean, it's a little,
Oh, if it was a final project design, then then the bottom line question, did the trellis design change from the approved set to this new set?
no, the trellis has not really changed. I mean, perhaps it's a matter of the coloration of the rendering that you're picking up on. I'm
Okay.
not sure.
Um,
No, materials.
Materials do not change, okay. And then there are a number of places where there's this geometric ceramic tiles. Can you explain where those are, and were those in the original plan as in that same color and pattern?
So are you referring to the terracotta tiles?
No. There are
Oh,
in place.
okay, the ceramic tiles.
The
Okay.
ceramics, yeah.
Yeah, so the intent of the ceramic tiles, let's see if I can find, this was one of the previous, this is from the 2016 set as well.
Is there not, I'm speaking of the wall tiles, it's like on the wall and back of the trellis, and I think these are existing on either side of the garage opening, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken.
Yeah, so,
And those change in color or in material since the last time?
they have not changed.
In
Let's see.
color?
No, the intent is that they're still in a kind of blue and white kind of range of color,
Okay.
coloration, so they haven't changed. Yeah.
Okay. Very good, thank you.
Okay. Ms. Anderson?
Any changes to the lighting strategy from what was previously approved, or additional locations, or?
No, any lighting has not changed at all.
Okay. And then our comment about the cafe from a year ago. So from a year ago to now, did the cafe change, or we removed the cafe from last time?
Yeah,
We
one of the
approved the
changes that
removal.
was
Okay.
brought forward last year
Got
was
it.
the change of the cafe to
Okay, I didn't
a-
understand our
yeah.
comment. Okay, those are my questions.
have one final question. The black flashing around windows and on the top of the, is that a painted Conair color
Yeah.
or?
So the product that we're looking at currently is a deep set window with an extended leg in front of it, so it's integral with the window itself.
But
So
the
it's a anodized dark bronze.
It's a dark
finish.
bronze.
Yeah.
Both the flashing, both the parapet flashing and the window.
The parapet flashing will be a paint finish to match the dark bronze of the windows. Was that-
Oh, right, very good. Oh, I have another question, excuse me. The metal railings with the angled twists and so forth, were those original?
Yes, those are original as well.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Noon?
I did have a follow-up question. After Board Member Black mentioned was questioning the planners, was there a consideration for recessing those in grade rather than pots or if you will?
Yeah, so I understand where you're coming from on that, because that would have been the ideal scenario. The situation is that the building, the basement below, is projecting forward of that wall that's coming up from grade, so we're not really able to recess any kind of planter. Otherwise, that's the approach we would have come with.
That's it?
Okay. I don't really have any other questions than this. I think, Mr. Black, just to clarify some of your own questions for the applicant's benefit, you're looking for detailing regarding the planters themselves, how the vines might attach, how, like, that level?
Yeah. And the specifics of the species as well. I don't know.
I'm trying to give the applicant a chance here to pull that plan up, because I think they have it somewhere.
Yeah, so. Sorry, I'm recollecting that in the 2016 set, I think there were some details for a gridded mesh that attached to the concrete wall to allow for the planting to grow. I just need to find that in the document set here.
Yeah, I know there are images of it, but is there an actual, like, this is how we're going to do it?
Yeah, I don't know that, and I don't want to waste everyone's time here. Yeah, we can look in the.
So that wire is in some locations but not others, is that correct?
Well,
For the vines to grow on?
I guess, to be honest, my memory is not with me right now for that south-facing wall, if there are cables on that wall. I know that there are some around the front of the building, like on this elevation. So logic would be that that would continue. And as well, the cables are in the courtyard stair that's going up, where the vines will be growing on there as well, so.
Okay, well,
Is your landscape architect available perhaps for final?
Yes,
So we could ask
he's
some
here in
questions?
Santa Barbara. Mhm.
Okay. I'd request that person be.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
and then just to follow up on the one comment about our confusion about that lowest story being made of a CMU block, but it's actually board form concrete. Does that material continue around to the front of the building
Yes.
and then under your terracotta mass as well?
Yes.
Okay.
So the idea is that it is continuing essentially on this front elevation. I'm sorry, the front elevation up here, which is concrete. Wherever you see the green is the concrete. And then it continues around the corner to that elevation here. So all of this, you kind of see there's a little gray in the background. That's the board form concrete with the vines kind of growing up from the planters that are on grade.
Okay, and previously, some of that was terracotta.
Yeah, previously there was some terracotta back in here.
Okay, as well as on the front or on the street facing.
Yeah, and it remains on the street face.
Okay,
So you have the terracotta accents around the doorways, and then that's sort of matching up there.
okay. But it's sort of been reconfigured on the upper stories a little bit, or maybe it hasn't. It's just,
On the
like if you zoom into grid line, what is that? G, that unit that's on the upper, on the previous one,
so
the second floor, that's still terracotta?
yeah, that remains as terracotta.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they kind of have this alternating pattern of the terracotta with the light colored plaster
Right.
happening kind of in a bit of a checkerboard.
Okay. Any other questions? Before we go to comments?
Can I ask just a quick question? Just
Yeah, of course.
Because I've never seen this application before, the terracotta is a sort of a cladding the building. And do you have an illustration or a photograph of, because I'm just not clear, are we talking about a 12 by 12 terracotta tile? Does it look like the kind you'd be using for flooring?
So,
What is
no,
it?
this is actual product that's
Ah.
made by Terreal. It's a big manufacturer of terracotta cladding products.
Okay.
So this is their standard, one of their kind of standard shapes. We're proposing a slightly different proportion, which is documented in our drawings. It's a little less elongated, but it's the same product, the same mix, same method of hanging. It essentially gets nailed to the building and then they're shingled over. It's very straightforward, very simple.
So they're lapped.
They're lapped, yeah.
Oh, they are lapped.
Yeah, they're lapped and it's super,
So there's no joints or anything? that you can-
no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And that is the finish right there
This
as
is-
we
yeah,
see it?
Yeah, this is representative, other than the proportions of this,
I
it's a
understand.
little shorter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you so much.
Okay, so comments. So they are looking for project design approval at this point. So who has comments regarding that? Vice Chair Six.
Mr. Chair, this project was reviewed and finalized before my time. And at that time, there wasn't a concern about making these contemporary projects special to Santa Barbara. And just really having an issue with not being able to dial, as I said in my last comments, dial this back to be more attuned to respect this Santa Barbara's feeling. It's it's very handsomely designed, but it's not a Santa Barbara contemporary, whatever that is. And I was hoping that perhaps even some of the colors could be tweaked a bit, as I asked what the paint finish on the black flashing at the top, if that could be if that's painted, could it be matching the terracotta color so it's less contemporary, or could it be an OG shape? Could the tile in the garages and the ceramic tile be of a terracotta color that would be more echoing the Santa Barbara style, or that Hispanic color theme of white and terracotta? Could the board in batt concrete be heavily stained white, so it's it doesn't jar, and again, has that off-white coloration of our Santa Barbara theme. I'm not going to be able to, I think without these tweaks, and I think their tweaks could be addressed easily at this time. I do not want to disrupt the process here, but I really have a problem with the contemporary look of this building, and would hope that some colorations of the various materials could go a lot toward bringing this into a less blatant, not blatant, but a less contemporary look. So I would want to see different color, at least different colorizations of those, of those trims.
Vice Chair Six, were you here at the last review of the project?
Yeah, and my comments were to dial back the detailing.
Those were your comments?
Those were my comments, yeah. And there was no, I wasn't specific, and now I am, and I think that colorization is one of the things that could easily be tweaked and not disrupt the flow of things here. So those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Anderson?
I would support project design approval today with what is submitted. So.
Okay, Mr. Whalen.
Thank you, Chair Moore. I think there's an over-reliance on your climbing vine to fully execute the elevations, the vicissitudes of growing things and water and the planter size, just and the south this is specifically to the south elevation, which I think was a point that we were to be addressed here. I believe that there was a call for plaster over the CMU wall, which I might still support in the view of the plants not fully maturating or surviving. That being said, I think that's about the only specific I can address to what's on our agenda today. I do share Member Six's, shall I say, reservations about the appropriateness of the aesthetic quality. These are part of our city charter and the Upper State Street guidelines. I don't see where this really meets those guidelines, but that ship has sailed as far as I can tell. So thank you.
Okay, Mr. Black?
Yeah, well, I would agree with those comments, certainly. But I would like to have the opportunity to at least, because I have some reservations about vines being growing the way you're showing in your illustrations from a enclosed planter. It's problematic. I mean, the soil is limited, and if you want something that's going to get as large as you're showing, there might be a challenge. So I would like to have an opportunity to at least hear from your landscape architect that they're confident that this will work, but at least pose the question.
Okay, Mr. Newton?
Yes, thank you. I would agree both with Board Member Anderson and Whalen. I think the applicant has, as it's presented, I don't think that deviates from the direction that you've been given in the past. So I can also support PDA. I do also agree with Board Member Black about the planting along that south wall. I think that's probably a concern, but would obviously defer to his discretion. Thanks.
Okay. I would agree with Mr. Noon. I think the project is where it is, and we've given them some direction, and they've responded, I think, appropriately. I personally like the idea of the board form as the base material, but I could certainly see where Vice Chair 6 is going with lightening that gray up to take some of the emphasis off of that material. Did you have a follow-up?
Well, I just asked the applicant whether he's aware of different colorizations of concrete and if that's within your abilities and palette.
Well, you can certainly get white concrete at great expense, I would say. Like, because the concrete can only get as light as the aggregate that's making it, right? The sand that it's coming from. So that's very challenging. I think if it were a matter of really the color of the concrete being problematic, then I think, our client would be open to, making that plaster if need be. I think the initial impetus was to provide another layer of texture and materiality that wasn't relying on a plaster, since there's some amount of plaster on the project, but
Could you
I think it's
successfully,
open for conversation.
could you successfully paint the board form?
You can certainly paint it. It does become a maintenance issue over time. There are textures you could apply to plaster, combed or raked or things such as that.
Well, it certainly would take away the stress of successful planting if, in my view, if that was more subtle.
Your mic is off.
And avoid a second review.
Are you asking them to make a choice right now, or you're just suggesting
Well, I think-
that they study that?
I'm thinking that in order to move this thing on, and try to get streamlined for a final, instead of having to come back full board on just this minor issue, that we hash it out now and get some assurances, or have, if it's natural colored concrete, that the planter system be reviewed at consent. So I think we need to move this on, somehow work it.
Repeat everything.
Mr. Noon, do you have
I was just going to concur with your comments. I think I think we all feel that maybe the plants will fail. I would be in support of the board form concrete. I don't think that's, I don't think that affects the project as a whole negatively. I do think that more plaster would affect it negatively more than just as a warm concrete. But I don't want to, I don't want to make that a stipulation that it has to be one. I think we just agree that the plants are problematic, and I'm open to the board form.
Yeah. Any thoughts? Because it sounds like the board is interested in getting you to a point where you can move on and come back on consent with additional information about these planters, maybe enlarged planters, potentially in combination with studying some material options for that area. So
Well, I guess, yeah, I'm not really clear right now what, it sounds like different people have different approaches, and I think our position is to come here and be flexible and accommodating, but we do want to be able to move it forward as you've suggested as well. And so I think we'd prefer not to come back and present something that maybe appeals to you but not others and so forth.
Sure.
So if I understand, Chair Moore, your direction was if we can get PDA today, we can come back on consent for final with the landscape architect to make sure that the vines that we have are going to work. And then the other was maybe look at study a couple of these alternative applications to the wall in question, which is only on the front, I believe, right? Or on the side, yeah, it goes around the side.
Yeah.
And then at consent, we would be able to finalize that.
Ideally, so I think it depends, comes down to what you choose to present at the consent level. So, Vice Chair Six,
So let me put my
you put your 2 cents.
foot down
Let's hear what you have to say.
and say that I don't think any on-grade planter is going to adequately cover that wall. And I think that there needs to be a change in color or in material on that first story wall. Vines or no vines?
Well, I don't know if I fully agree with you. I've seen very large vines growing out of planters. It just depends on how well they're maintained, how large the planter is. So I think what is shown, I don't think will have the oomph to do it. And I think that's Mr. Black's point. So, correct?
Yes.
So, well, Vice Chair Six, so your point is if the vines fail, you want to have a material there that is less contrasting with
That's correct.
the rest of the project. Okay? So I think the direction of the board would be to find a way to treat that surface to make it lighter, warmer, and you could present options of how you
Yes.
want to do that.
Yeah. Okay, so we can come back with maybe 2 strategies and options for looking at the color, texture, plaster to address your concerns, and then see if we can also improve the planting to give a little more confidence in the success of the planting. And perhaps between the combination of those two, there's a kind of happy place and a success that goes between planting and texture and color.
Mr. Chair, sensitive to progress, I hope that those 2 issues could be handled at consent.
Okay, would that be acceptable, Mr. Noon? Mr. Black?
Yes. If you could too, if we start talking about planters, when you come back, if you could, you've got model numbers and what have you on your plans, I saw that, but I didn't see photographs of them. I'd really like to see what they look like,
Sure.
Easy enough.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Ms. Anderson, any issues?
I don't think it has to be plaster. It's still, okay.
That wasn't the
Okay, I thought you
stipulation.
said that. Okay.
It could-
Okay.
Yeah, could be, but.
Got it.
Mr. Whalen, any issues with that?
Nothing additional.
Okay. So I'll make a motion for preliminary design approval when the project shall return for final on consent with the following comments. That the applicant shall provide additional detailing, information, specifications, and images regarding the proposed planters along the facade, and ensure the board that the sizing, irrigation will provide an adequate base to grow vines as depicted on the elevations. The board suggests that the applicant provide alternative treatments to the ground level board form concrete material in order to create a warmer color.
Harmonious color with upper floors.
with the upper floors. Okay. Anything else we want to add?
A request to have the landscape architect attend finally?
Yes.
Thank you.
And that the landscape architect shall attend to present the details and planting plan. Okay,
I'll second.
great. Any discussion? No? Okay, let's take our vote, please.
Chair Moore?
Yes.
Vice Chair Six?
No.
Board Member Anderson?
Yes.
Board Member Black?
Yes.
Board Member Noon?
Yes.
Board Member Whalen?
I'm going to abstain from voting on this item.
Motion passes.
We need to do the PC.
Oh, the compatibility now, so,
Yep.
sorry. We're going to back up a step, if we could. Okay, so even though this project already has PDA, this is a revised PDA, so we find that the project is consistent with the design guidelines within this area. It is compatible with the architectural character of the neighborhood. It is appropriate in size, mass, bulk, height, and scale. And we are not aware of any adjacent landmarks. There are no changes to the established public views of the ocean and mountains. And there is appropriate open space and landscaping throughout the project. Okay. And
And then we will also need to state your reason for no, Board Member Six.
Yes, I feel that there are opportunities for different colors to make the design less contemporary, and those changes would not have obstructed the progress of the project.
And your abstention?
Yes, since I missed the last meeting on May 31st, I don't feel like I had, well, as my mother used to say, I'm a day late and a dollar short. But I don't believe that this is consistent with the city charter, the Upper State Street guidelines, and compatibility findings. So since I've lacked enough involvement and input, I feel an abstention is best.
okay, thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, let's put the appeal slide up as well, if we could. And displayed on screen is the appeal process for this project. Okay, well, I'm going to, let's have a 4-minute recess. And then I am going to step down from the rest of the items.
Everybody's present now. We will reconvene the ABR meeting for July 10th. Next thing on the item on the agenda is 712 East Coda Street. This project consists of a three-story, three-unit condominium building with 3 parking spaces, 1 space per unit on a 5,000 square foot yacht. Wouldn't that be nice? Lot, a shared parking easement with an adjacent lot at 710 East Coda is proposed to provide adequate access and maneuverability for vehicles. 3 bike lockers are proposed on the adjacent site, 710 East Coda Street, along with the easement for access. The existing 1,462 square foot residence will be demolished. The units are proposed to be deed restricted with affordability covenants. The discretionary applications requested for this project are a vesting tentative subdivision map for 3 condominiums, a parking modification to provide less than the required 2 parking spaces per unit, a front setback modification to allow the entry porch to encroach into the required front setback, and an interior setback modification to allow the trash enclosures to encroach into the required interior setback. Note that a similar proposal for development of the adjacent property at 710 East Coda Street is being reviewed simultaneously under PLN 2022-00277, and both projects are shown on the project plans. The property is zoned CG, Commercial General, and has a general plan designation of commercial high-density residential, 28 to 36 dwelling units per acre. No appealable decision will be made at this hearing. Project will require compliance with the project compatibility guidelines. The project was last reviewed on February 6, 2023. So before the applicant begins, do we want to first review the previous comments?
Thank you, Vice Chair Six. Yes, and then I just wanted to make a brief announcement known. So we'll be reviewing today's item along with item number 4 on the agenda together simultaneously, as it was stated in the agenda description. However, for item number 4, we will just have to open it up, go through public comment, and close
Provide
the
a
item
separate
as well,
motion.
and do the separate motion as well.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
But in reality, it is just one item. So let me pull up the minutes.
So will you read this for us, please?
Most certainly. So the motion was continued indefinitely with the following comments. The project as presented is an admirable attempt to minimize the program selected for the site. The board believes it is too aggressive, too massive, and too high for the surrounding context. The site is overdeveloped, which is out of the project compatibility guidelines. The board has provided multiple suggestions during the discussion on how to rearrange the parts and revise the elevation to further minimize the massing of the project. 4, the board finds that the styles and architecture are mostly successful, but questions success of the 3-story craftsman. When the applicant returns, the board would like to see full documentation of the impact that the project has on 716 East Coda Street.
Thank you. Does staff have any input?
Yes, Chair 6, Kelly Bradison with Community Development. I just wanted to state for the record that staff is supportive of the development of 3 low-income ownership units on the lot, and staff is supportive of the parking modification to provide only 3 spaces based on the fact that the units are proposed to be 100% affordable low-income units, and the units will be limited to 1 vehicle per unit and monitored by the owners of the property's Habitat for Humanity. They've had success in the past with these types of projects and periodic reviews of DMV records enforcing the 1 car per unit. So for the record, staff is supportive supportive of these two projects moving forward with
All right,
positive.
thank you. Is there, if I recall, this project is next to a historic resource to the east. Was there any input from the historian
There,
in regards to it, any specific input in regards to that?
Chair 6, yes, there was. There was a memo provided by Nicole Hernandez, the city's architectural historian, and I can go upstairs and print that out for you while the applicant makes their presentation.
Good, thanks.
Mhm.
All right, so I think that's, with that, we can hear your presentation and introduce yourselves.
You want to start?
Katie Klein, Perry I Landscape Architecture.
Ryan Mills with DMHA.
Izzy Savage with DMHA.
Jessica DeLarbro with Habitat for Humanity of Southern Santa Barbara County.
Great, thank you very much. We're going to start with Jessica's going to give a couple-minute intro, and then we'll run through the rest of it as fast as we can and be open to questions.
Good.
Is this working? Okay. Hi. We're proud to be here sitting alongside DMHA, and I wanted to let you know why, as Habitat, we are here. And we are here to build 6 new 100% affordable housing units and sell them at an affordable mortgage. But why geographically we're here is an important part of the story. We received these 2 adjacent parcels as gifts of donated property. And the donor worked with us to say, I have a dream of optimizing this donated land to build this affordable opportunity for 6 low-income families. They are 100% deed restricted, a community benefit project. And I share this because in addition to preserving state historic requirements, the state has also mandated that we build as many affordable units as possible. So thank you for considering that in context of the architectural requirements, and know that working with our community in a collaborative process is key to our mission as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Okay, since the minutes were read, we have a pretty small set, so we'll just move through sheet by sheet and we'll address them as they come up. I think.
So there has been changes since
There
the last
has.
review.
Yes, there absolutely has. So I'd categorize them in kind of 3 main groups. Number 1 is we responded to ABR, or this board's comments from last time. Additionally, since you last saw us, we've been working through the DART with transportation and trash, and kind of worked through and made some adjustments to site plan, which we'll take you through. A couple unit adjustments because of that as well. And then ultimately, we took some mass off the 3rd floor. So those are sort of the big pieces we'll move through. And I'll get into more detail as we go.
Great.
Site photos, which I think you're all familiar with. We can come back if there's a question.
Everybody who was here before, correct?
Okay.
Okay.
This sheet was, if you recall, not neighborhood context, but inspirational from around town when we looked at language and massing and scale of this project.
You could probably go directly to the changes.
Well, I want to talk about this. So this is an exhibit we made because of one of the comments about 3-story Craftsman. So we looked around, and while we found additional ones outside of town, we felt like there was a couple relevant. So here on Bath Street is an approved and constructed and successful 3-story development project, housing project in the Craftsman style off of Bath, with the organizing principles much the same. 2-story addressing the street, 3-story as you step back kind of out of the right of way's eye. A couple more images of it there as you look down the side yard. And then what's interesting to us, which we didn't know at the time, was it's directly adjacent a historic structure, 1-story cottage. So it was just, we thought, a very good comp of what we're attempting and what was approvable in the past. So that's from the street vantage point. You can see it. It's kind of the rear yard beyond. And then on the, if we can zoom out, and then on the right is a project on Cantor Perdido we did for Habitat a few years ago, again in that same style, 2 stories addressing the street, 3 stories in the back. And there are many more examples, as you know, in many architectural styles, but we thought these were the most relevant And additionally, it's not adjacent, but bossy there, so historic structure, couple parcels away. A little stretch, but just wanted to show the context.
Because it's bossy.
Yeah. So that was that sheet we wanted to share and prepare for the board. And then let's skip over. This is an important sheet we didn't really touch on last time. So as we move through, we will talk about, in terms of the design standards relative, they're the historic design standards. There's really kind of, in our minds, three primary things to look at for context. It's neighborhood character. It's like architectural language. We feel like we're moving in the right direction. The second thing was pattern of height and scale. So if we look at the street elevation, what is acceptable is getting up 2 stories and back down to 1. So that's why we pushed all massing towards the back. So at least from the street view, we find that acceptable. And the third main component for patterning in that historic guidelines is the setback and how does that move down the street. So you can see the cottages on the right. So the 712 and down towards the other corner is primarily 18 foot setbacks, and it's pretty consistent all the way down. But what I wanted to point out was
So I'm confused. Which is our subject parcels and which are?
712, so that's 710. That's one of our parcels, and then to the right, that's our other parcel,
Okay, and then the historic house is right
that
here.
third one.
Okay.
So really, the one that exists today at 712, the historic, and, you know, the next few all are about 18 feet.
Mhm.
They're pretty consistent. But as you can see, as you go towards the corner of Quarantina, what's existing there today is significantly closer. It's actually very close to the street, and then we just get the tip of it on the corner. That's really the side yard, so it's even closer yet. So we didn't really talk in those terms, but what we're doing with the new development is actually pulling all of that farther away from Coda Street. So we're getting more in line with the pattern of the neighborhood. There's our site plans, just for overview. Yeah, let's go to the dimensions there. So this gives you a little more specifics. And so there's the 18 feet of the adjacent historic structure. And then Izzy, you're going to have to help me. I can't read those distances anymore.
So 712, our proposed design is at 11.4. Previously, we came to you with 10.2, so we've moved back the front unit by 1'2". This unit previously designed was 10.2. We moved back to 10.10, so 8 inches further back.
Yep, perfect. Okay, so you can see we're trying to conform not only to the neighborhood, but the design, the historic design standards. So now, one of the adjustments we had to make, so let's pan down of the overall site. There's a couple things. So we pulled back off the street. With transportation, we needed to grow our parking a little bit, so we just kind of adjusted that both in width and length. Trash was something else. The project description wasn't accurate, so we actually don't have that anymore. You can see all the trash is consolidated into one trash room on 710 off the setback, so that kind of opened up all the side yards, we think was really positive. But then lastly, we did pull these back units, unit 3 and 6, towards the rear property line a little bit more. And in doing, and that's the commercial property, so it's open and that one big fish building, I think. So we felt like that was a good compromise, but that's what kind of instigated us reworking those units. They previously had bigger openings facing the rear property line. Now we have rotated them so they really go directly out to their side yards. That's sort of the direct focus. And we've raised that for decks. If we have time for landscape, that's really the main change, is these 2 back corners of getting decks and a couple canopy trees in those open yards, in those yards. Let's go to the next sheet. We'll come back to these, but landscape plans, again, I think primarily it's all the same, with exception of the back 2 units. So let's just skip through. Yep, let's keep going. Let's get to the elevations. Okay, just really quickly on streetscape, this is the context that we produced before. The right is Quarantina. Again, along the street are the 2-story facades of our 2 projects. The thirds are very far back. And then one of the comments was providing more details. So we've more accurately detailed and modeled the historic structure there adjacent to us. And we have additional documentation we'll show you in a second. So let's go to the next. So elevation, so starting at 710, so no changes to the facade of this. So let's go to the long elevation. So this one, in the grand context, the board message we got back last time was we had a little more leeway on 710. 712 is where we actually did more of the adjustment to the third floor and movement front and back. So this is the one adjacent our Habitat's other property. So again, we've just sort of fine-tuned the project. A few fenestration changes in the back. You can see the new French doors on the bottom level. And in dash red lines, you see the adjacent cottages or residences for context and their garages. So we've adjusted that. Let's go to the next one. Rear elevation. Again, minor fenestration adjustments. We might have a few more to do, but in general, we're happy with how this landed. And then let's go to the next, I think the next project. The 712 is actually the more relevant one. So this is the one adjacent the historic structure. So here's our front elevation. Again, you see the context of the structure kind of to the left. And again, as a reminder of overall height, we had our floodplain. So we had to lift, 3 to 4, was it exactly how high we had to go?
4 to 4.5.
4 to 4.5 feet. So the first time we came up that high, and then if you recall, last time we split the difference between grading and the floodplain. So the parking is actually lower, which I'll show you in a second. Let's go to the side elevation. So I think this is the relevant one. Again, in dashed red is the adjacent historic structure. On the right is the main residence. In the back is the garage at the rear and side property line. So here's the adjustments. So our entire elevation pushed back towards the rear. So you can kind of see the delta between the front of the historic cottage and ours. The main massing of the building is a couple feet in front, then our small porch. And then the other thing we did was, you can see the third floor, we took away an entire bedroom. So again, this is the constant balance and struggle. And so now both it's reduced scope, reduced mass, and it's pulling off the rear property line, which we also heard from some of the members of this board would be positive to kind of step the massing. So it's, as you can see, minimize and push towards the middle of the project. That roof form along the side breaks up that third story mass. And then we looked closely again at windows and doors. So you can see how quiet this elevation has become. So starting at the left, the back, that is a bedroom window. I think a bedroom window, but it's over the garage, kind of towards the back of that adjacent property. Then as you move on that second floor, those two smaller windows are in the living room, but over the entertainment wall, so they're small and high, so we don't expect much activity looking through those windows. And then the next window is a bathroom, and then the next one is a bedroom. Really, it's there because we need egress, but we were mindful of how minimal can we make all these windows. And you can see the two smallest ones are really between the buildings where their open yard is, and there might be activity outside. And then on the third floor, we studied a couple options, but we have one window, and that's circulation. So again, that's not living space or a bedroom, so no one's, anyone can look through a window, but no one's lingering in those areas. So that's how we had treated that. Let's go to the next sheet. And then this is the, what elevation is this?
South.
So south elevation. Again, we're going to show you perspectives that really demonstrate what the third floor is doing, because it looks funny in 2D. Let's go to the next. And then again, this is the driveway or courtyard side, again, with the limited third story element, that little gable. And then again, minor fenestration adjustments. Let's go to the next sheet. I want to address in section next. And let's go to the next section. Okay, that top section. Another comment from this board was suggestions of how we might reduce the mass. So in addition to the third floor, one of the requests for study, which we did, was can you take that unit 5 that sits over the parking, which you can see is lower, it's in the floodplain. can that whole piece reduce down? And again, we studied it. One thing, we didn't like the idea of shearing all of the plates running through, and the entrance to Unit 5 is essentially in the mass of Unit 6, as you can see there. So we're 8.6 clear there for our stair going up. So we can't lower that portion. So instead, we looked at that, it just didn't feel good for that purpose and constructability, so we focused on reducing the third floor as sort of the bigger, I'm sorry?
And the floodplain.
And the floodplain, yeah. And then I want to get to the 3-story. Material board, we can answer questions if need be. Okay, let's zoom in. So I think this tells the real story. So these streetscapes from the right of way, we're across the street. So here's the story of, Quarantina's on our right. There's that existing corner cottage. And then you can see 710, it's like a 2-story transitional. Even this was that the larger 3-story element. It's set well back. And so we feel like that feels like a original front house and a comfortable addition in the back. And then from this vantage point, we go to the next 712, and there you can see it adjacent, the historic structure reads as a 2-story. That minimal 3rd story is well to the back. And this is important to us. So we're now taking, starting at the corner, that patterning of the street. So we're pushing the setback from the corner a little farther back, even farther back, and then it meets that historic structure and it marches down the street. And then height, again, what's acceptable per the historic design guidelines is going up to 2nd floor and back down to 1. So that pattern we understand is acceptable. So then it's been left, different vantage point. So with the historic structure on our left in our foreground, this describes that 3rd story element. We studied the roof form in a couple different ways. We liked that it turned and minimized and just created a little bit more 3-dimensional interest. So the gable is facing 90 degrees to the facade at the front. We just thought that felt like a better balance. But again, we feel really good about the rhythm of the pattern of this streetscape, kind of per those guidelines. 0 minutes. Sorry, Katie. That can,
Go ahead,
do we want to spend a minute, or could that be an answer to a question the board may have?
You have a short little
Sure, I'll do a short little
Ruth?
ditty.
Maybe you could just talk about the tree massings.
Exactly what I wanted to talk about. We looked at all the tree placements pretty closely of where windows are to make sure that there's that other layer of privacy, and the different sizes of trees as well we looked at in their placement. And then the back that changed with the decks in the back, we have cutouts in the deck for trees as well, and then vines along the whole property with the new fencing. So yes, there in the back. We have that large canopy tree in the back that was always the same, but on the side property lines, those are fruitless olives. So we cut into the decking to kind of create, and we thought about where those placement was with windows and the neighboring property as well. Olives, fruitless olives, just to decrease mess
So
and maintenance.
those 2 olives are below the 3rd story window on the bedroom?
Those two, let's go to the elevation. You can see how they're in front of the parking stalls essentially. So let's go to the elevation.
There might be the plans that you guys had submitted with the.
Yes, we had a diagram of all this.
Yeah, and it might be at the very end of this set. If not, I can pull up the 2.
Okay, that'd be actually helpful, because we actually show that in diagram. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's-
So this is exactly the sizing and studying. We have hemisporium when you go down the driveway and in the very front streetscape as well. So that's a very tall, narrow tree. And the rest are olives to kind of work with the windows.
Oh,
So
there you
tier
go.
6, this is, I think, what
Yeah.
you're asking for.
Okay.
So it covers, you can see, well, obviously in the front, on the street, but then that one large bedroom window kind of adjacent to the historic structure, we placed a canopy. Then the next one at its bathroom-ish, that kind of, and that's sort of shading the side yards anyway.
Yeah.
And then the last one, you know, we got a little past, we wanted to screen the bedroom a little bit, but didn't want to interrupt the modest yard either, so we kind of.
So the important one is the
Yep.
large bedroom window on the
Yep.
plan right. Okay, thank you. That's it? All right.
That
very
concludes.
good.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. So with that, we will open public comment. Take it away.
All right, thank you, Vice Chair Six. I'll go ahead and start with in-person public comment. At this time, I do have 2 requests to speak, so we'll start with Jane Hubble. If you would make your way up to the podium, you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Hi, I'm Jan Hubble. I'm on the board of Santa Barbara Habitat and chair of the Building and Construction Committee. And some of you will recognize me because I was a planner with the city for 30 years. This project for 6 affordable ownership units is an important step in meeting affordable housing needs in the city. The city is building a lot of studio and 1 and 2 bedroom units, but has a desperate need for 3-bedroom units to meet the needs of low-income families. This project fits with in a fairly eclectic neighborhood. There's a fair amount of craftsmen. There's some sort of Victorian era stuff going on here and there. There, of course, is the major Spanish colonial across the street with a high school. And as you move down toward the transportation center, you get a little more industrial in look. We've worked hard with DMHA to respond to ABR's comments while still meeting our mission. We believe the project does meet ABR guidelines and think the project is ready to move forward for project approval by the staff hearing officer, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, up next we have Jessica Wishin. If you would like to make your way up to the podium, you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
That's me, and I'm here and don't need to speak. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Well, at this time, I haven't received any other speaker slips, so I'll go ahead and move to virtual public comment. If you wish to speak on Zoom at this time, you can raise your hand and I'll call on you. I don't see any hands raised on Zoom, but we did receive 2 letters from Gabriel Reyes and Daniel Tall. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Vice Chair Six.
All right, thank you very much. So I will close public comment and bring it back to questions from the board. Is any?
I only have a couple questions. If we could go to the site plan first. And then if you can just confirm what's going on in the east of 712 East Side Yard in the front. Are those electrical panels that I'm seeing? Okay, and that's the clearance that I'm seeing. Okay. And then can we go to, I think it's 712's west elevation. So the interior, the actual elevation, sorry, building elevation. Oh wait, maybe it's 710, I'm sorry. 710, go back up. Along the driveway? Yeah, yes. Yes, along the driveway. I think this is kind of more of a comment, so I'll try to make it a question. Was there any consideration to keeping the beige siding in line versus the white siding? See how they don't align? I don't know, I'm just trying to make it look more like 2 separate buildings versus not sure what's happening.
Oh, you mean a jog and?
Yeah. Are those, yeah, the jog and the
That's the
siding?
demising wall, so it.
Oh,
the
okay.
trim, but we can easily.
The
nudge
trim,
that
yeah.
over and
Okay.
Kind of fudge that virtual line.
Sure, okay, got it. Those were my questions.
No questions, Vice Chair Six.
All right.
I don't have any questions.
No questions.
All right. Forgive me, my home computer was squirrely, so I didn't do all my homework. Can you, so on, let's see, the closest one is 712, right, correct? Did you push that porch over to be sensitive, away from the historic structure to?
It's part of the
What
streetscape.
was that? Was that
I want to answer
prior?
with the image. I was sort of
Okay.
holding on. Can we do the front elevation? So there, yeah, so you can see that's part of the differentiation of our two projects, right? So the 710, we have the porch along the whole frontage.
Yes.
Where 712, correct.
So that was a
we
change.
pushed.
That was a change. It
No,
moved.
we've always been here, but that was a original consideration.
Okay, great, great, great. And then, did you change or lower the plate heights on that front two-story along, before you get to, on 212, on the north side?
No,
Excuse me, on the east side? That's where you were before.
We have stuck to 8.6.
Okay.
As a plate height. We
Mhm.
just always feel
And you're not,
livability and quality of space. I mean, we would do more if we could.
and you're not subject to the solar ordinance?
Solar ordinance. Do you want to answer that more specific? I don't believe so, no.
Do you know how it behaves with the solar ordinance? Do you know how it aligns
On
with?
residential, how you draw those.
Yes.
How it
You-
shades the.
What is it, 30? Huh?
The northern
It would be that,
But
I don't
not-
think this applies in this situation. I don't think their property line shadows.
Oh, so it's not applicable to?
No, it's not.
Okay. So you can go less than 5 feet in the back setback? The rear setback?
So the introduction was a little out of date. Through the DART process, we found there are no applicable setbacks except the front setback. There was no interior or rear yard setbacks, so
Okay.
we're compliant in all sides.
Great. All right, I think those are my questions. So.
Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
follow-up question. Mr. Mills, you said the plate heights have always been 8.6. One of our comments was size, bulk, and scale. I appreciate that you moved the buildings back anywhere from 8 inches to 14 inches, but there was no vertical changes made. Thank you.
I have
Okay.
a follow-up question.
Yes.
Can you just run us through your thoughts on mechanical systems and what you're planning on doing?
I believe it was heat. I believe we're only providing heating.
Okay.
Do you want to add anything to that, Ed?
Chair Six, fellow board members, Ed Devasene, architect, DMHA. Yeah, what we've done on these Habitat for Humanity projects is design the envelope with a higher level of sustainability of insulation. So we've gotten away with actually just electric resistance heating and it meets Title 24. So it's been a nice, low cost and comfortable solution.
Great, thank you.
All right. Any other follow-up questions, comments? Who would like to start? Mr. Noon?
Sure, I'll start. I'll be brief. I find the changes both in addressing the board and as well as the guidelines. I think you have met that. It's appropriate, and I'm supportive of the progress.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And the only little landscape thing I would point out is the choice of olives. I mean, I like olives, but it seems like you're going to, at least particularly in the back where you've got the three-story element, but you need something a little bit more upright to sort of bring down that mass. Stenocarpus comes to mind. It's kind of upright and can deal with small spaces, which is what you have, I guess. So, but anyway, that's just an observation on my part, but just any way you can get a little bit more green massing up above, to sort of pull down that third story a bit. But otherwise, I think it's a very handsome project.
All right. Mr. Wayland?
I appreciate the detail and effort that you put into your presentation to try to meet the board's suggestions. Following up on Mr. Black's comment, and my own reservation is with the mass and bulk at the back. How will this appear from this largely historic block of buildings? Will these be that much out of character? I struggle with that. I do think that and it's illustrated here, that the third story on 712 could use a little more detail, such as the exposed ridge beam and rafter beams. It looks a little unadorned right now. Perhaps even some of the, I forget what you called them, this.
Outriders?
This barge board, or, no, that would be the fascia. Yes, that horizontal member that defines the plate height. Some more of that character on the third story to at least make it look smaller, smaller windows. Like, I know they did this at Disneyland on Main Street, USA. Each of the floors is a smaller scale, smaller windows, to just make it look a little bit smaller, or in that case, a different scale. Other than that, I find it's an acceptable project. Are they looking for, no, still concept review. So just to summarize then, I do have some misgivings about the size, scale, and bulk as it affects the street and the neighborhood. I think you've addressed those to the best of your capabilities. Thank you.
Ms. Anderson?
Yeah, I appreciate that the building stepped down in height and also in the setbacks. I think that was an acceptable way to address some of our concerns. Kind of like I alluded to in the questions, I would consider the siding to really distinguish between the two-story front and the three-story mass in the back. I agree with the detailing observation from Board Member Whalen. And on this elevation, I would actually consider flipping the steps to the other side and having the deck on the other side, and so you're not really in your neighbor's space as like sitting, I guess.
Explain that again.
In this elevation, I would just consider flipping the entry steps to that side, yeah, correct, and then having your deck under the porch, your porch under the.
And that was because?
That is to take basically the activity away from the neighbor, is my thought. It's just a thought.
Okay.
What was I going to say? Oh, on the 710, I noticed your third story plate height was 8.6. If there was a way to consider structurally and cost effectively vaulting the ceiling and bringing the plate height down, that might be something to consider. Yeah. I think 8-foot plate heights would be acceptable here, understanding that obviously we'd prefer much taller, but those are my comments.
All right, thank you. I really appreciate the effort and the graphics to show the sensitivity to the historic structure to the east, and I'm a lot more comfortable now with what you've done and the rhythm of the street, you know, being that the porch is moved over and it sets back and flows nicely. So I'm over the hump. I think that it's acceptable massing and is sensitive enough to, within reason, to the historic structure. We had a previous project that was, you know, at first not accepted because of the literal interpretation of the historic guidelines, and got input back from the historian that there is movement and compromise with the need for new housing, especially the low-cost housing and so forth. So I'm over the hump. I think I think it's a great, very well designed, and I think it will be acceptable in the context that it will be in. And I do agree with the previous comments in regards to tree types and detailing of the upper floor. So is anybody, I think that summarizes, everybody said their piece. Would anybody like to, let's see, this is, obviously we're not, we can have an indefinite continuance for project.
Chair Six, I have a quick question.
Yes.
Do we need to give comment on this front setback modification? Is that something we need to talk about today?
Well, haven't we already been through the staff hearing officer in this regard?
Chair Six and Board Member Anderson? No, this project has not been to the staff hearing officer yet,
okay.
so they would like comments regarding the aesthetics of the mod, if you're so inclined.
So which specifics do we need to comment upon for the staff hearing officer? I think it's only the,
We were of the understanding that now the parking is the only modification we're going to the show for.
Because Chair Six and, I can't remember your name. Mr. Mills. Sorry, I should know that because you're one of the greatest applicants. But I think that's correct. I'm sorry for misspeaking. I think the project was revised since the last ABR, and then it's in the RM zone. He's looking at me with disbelief.
no.
Yeah, so the maximum height, so there's 0 setbacks when you're in, it's actually in the CG zone, and the maximum height is 45 feet.
Okay, so there's really no specific architectural aesthetic thing that we need to help the show officer in regards to, correct? Except for a
Correct, yes.
general.
So when we submitted that, Chair Six, when we scheduled the revised project for ABR, we neglected to remove the language that states the project requires modifications.
All right, very good. I
Sometimes
didn't
we
have
get
to read all that.
So
damn thing.
caught up in the details that we forget to actually look at the project.
Thank you, Kelly.
All right, very good. So that gives us a clear path to make a motion. Anybody willing to do that?
I'll just move for indefinite continuance back to the full board, or to the show?
To staff hearing officer.
Staff hearing officer, okay. To the staff hearing officer with the following comments: that the board appreciates the applicant's response to our past comments and appreciates the reduction in the mass at the 3rd story. Appreciates number 2, the board appreciates the front setbacks stepping and increasing from the last time we saw it. The board would like to see more detailing on the 3rd stories to reflect the appropriate architectural style. The board would also like to see the exterior materials appropriately placed to distinguish the buildings, the building masses. And
Tree types?
oh, thank you. And number 6 or 7, whichever number we're on. If we could see an alternate tree type instead of the olives in the rear of the property.
Side yard.
On the side yard of the property.
To the east. All right, I think that's everything. Did we miss anything?
Do we need to include any of the modifications
no-
for
they're
the
not
staff
in it.
hearing? Oh, okay.
There's no longer.
And I would just a general comment number one, that it's a very well executed and nice design.
Okay.
I'll second.
Mr. Newton seconds that. Do we need, anybody need to read that back? No? All right. So this is for 712 East Dakota.
So, oh,
Correct. So we would go through with the roll call for this motion, and
Okay.
then the board can open
Very
up
good.
the next item.
So we have a motion on the board,
All right.
on the table?
Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson,
yes.
Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes.
Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, that completes 712. So we will introduce, the next item is item 710 East Dakota, which we have discussed in detail and described previous with 712. So we will repeat the exact motion for this 710 as we did for 712.
And then let's,
And-
before we take roll call on that copied motion, we would need to just open up public comment.
Oh, yes,
That's just
okay.
a clerical item.
Okay, so before we repeat, we will open public comment.
All right. Thank you, Vice Chair Six. I'll go ahead and start with in-person public comment. At this time, I haven't received any speaker slips. If you do wish to speak in person, you can fill out a speaker slip by the back door. Seeing no one move to speak, I'll go ahead and move to virtual public comment. At this time, if you wish to speak on Zoom, you can go ahead and raise your hand and I'll call on you. I don't see any hands raised on Zoom, but as mentioned before, we did receive 2 letters from Gabriel Reyes and Daniel Tall. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Vice Chair Six.
And close public comment and back to where we were before with a motion on the floor.
So it's, the motion would be copied
Copied.
verbatim from item 3,
That's-
and so we can take a roll call.
That's correct.
Great. Vice Chair Six?
Yes.
Board Member Anderson?
Yes.
Board Member Black?
Yes.
Board Member Noon?
Yes.
And Board Member Whalen?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Nice job.
So I think we're in good time. Yes. So we will go on to item number 5, 1210 Carpinteria Street. This is a proposal to remodel the 1,542 square foot single-family dwelling unit and to construct a new 1,004 square foot two-bedroom unit and a 448 square foot detached garage. Project design approval is requested. Project requires compliance with the project compatibility analysis guidelines. The project was last reviewed on February 7th, 2022. So we have our applicants here. If you would introduce yourselves and present your project.
Hi, Bobby Walker with Bobby Walker Design.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Rachel Raynor with RRM Design Group, and I'm the land use planner.
And then just for the board's, pardon my interruption, as a friendly reminder, I will just pull the minutes up and go through them very quickly.
Yes.
So, it was last year, February 7th, 2022. This was continued indefinitely with the comments. 1, develop the site plan and the landscape flat work to make it appropriate for a multifamily development. 2, study the relocation of the carport to provide more landscape planning, screening areas along Soledad Street, and balance that with generous internal open space for the use of residents. Study the rearrangement of the carport, bike storage, and trash storage and other configuration that consolidates and creates more efficiencies for the pedestrian walkways between the units and those elements. Verify the status and need for adding replacing the street trees. 5, the board recommends that the entire structure be re-roofed. 6, the board looks forward to seeing the carport design. The carport elements should be sympathetic to the existing structure and make sure the vertical supports are not undersized. 7, the board looks forward to the refined site plan to see the areas where hardscape can be reduced and planting areas can be increased, in particular in the turnaround areas of both the new covered carport and the uncovered parking between units. The board would like to see the opportunities to provide landscaping instead of hardscaping on the front elevation of Unit C. 8, the board encourages the applicant and Public Works to look at an introduction of parkway material on the north side of the new curb along Carpinteria Street. 9, document and verify the ordination between the existing trees on the back property line and new carport. 10, study the size and addition of windows to the existing garage. Ordination.
Thank you. Well, if I understand correctly, last it was reviewed, there was hardly any street improvements. Is that correct?
Can you say that again? There were hardly any?
There was hardly any street improvements. There was no curb, sidewalk, and so forth. Was
Existing condition on Carpinteria
Yeah.
or Soledad?
that on Carpinteria?
It's a pretty wide driveway apron right now. I think it's 25 feet
But
wide.
were the improvements, the street improvements done at that time? At the review, at the last review? Can't remember.
We had suggested some street improvements, and since then, we've gotten some information from staff that there's a
CIP project
Yeah,
underway
for the
in
bridge.
2024 for the
CIP.
Sycamore Creek. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's
So we've been in coordination with Transportation Planning and Public Works, and they're working on those designs, and we would reflect whatever.
Okay.
We received a 35% set of those plans, and then just kind of reflected that onto a future improvement for that
Okay.
apron.
Well, I jumped in, so I didn't get, you didn't get to introduce yourselves nor present your project.
That's okay. I think we did introduce ourselves for the record, but I'm Rachel and Bobby. Just
Okay.
want to run through the minutes. Bobby, can you go to the site plan, please? Just a couple, page 3. Couple updates to the program since you last saw it in February. We've been working through the PLN application completeness process with staff. The largest issue that we encountered was the on-site turnaround requirement when we were proposing a 3-unit project previously. Basically, the Carpinteria driveway was, we worked it every which way you could have imagined and came to the conclusion that we would scratch the 3rd unit. We've revised the project to be 2 units. That existing garage off Carpinteria is to remain. We're introducing a new residential unit above a 2-car garage along the Soledad street frontage. And the existing single-family home is to remain and will be remodeled with this scope of work. And as Bobby already mentioned, we're in coordination with Public Works on their improvement plans. That is off-site improvement plans, so we're just reflecting what we have thus far, but understand that that might be subject to change based on city's design. And so just running through the minutes, study the relocation of the carport. That's no longer applicable since the carport has been removed from the proposal along Soledad, and the new residential unit has been introduced along that. And then just wanted to note, there was a comment about the trash storage and it being a long walk for some of the units. We've incorporated and we can get to this on the floor plan, but there is a trash area along the, incorporated in the new residential unit along Soledad. So, and then there's one closer, adjacent to the garage for Unit A. And we do include the street trees along the street frontage along Carpinteria in our landscape plan, which we can bring up. And just to comment on the minute that reflected, or the board recommended the entire structure be re-roofed. The existing tenants in Unit A would like to remain in place, and it's a little bit cost prohibitive for the client to re-roof the existing structure to date, and especially when we think the roof has an estimated 10 years of remaining life. And then carport design, that's no longer applicable. Yeah, I think the rest of them will be addressed as we bring up the rest of the plan. So I'll turn it over to Bobby.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. So I'll talk about a little bit of the setbacks here regarding kind of mass and scale. So just to clarify, we have no exterior massing changes to this existing house or the existing garage, except for a trellis that we're proposing here that we'll show in elevation. Another item is right here, there is a large black gate closing off this breezeway. So it's a little foreboding, so we're suggesting a smaller cedar barrier there to prevent parking, but to allow a little more light to go through. The interior of the house is proposing an update just in this living area. So a rework kind of this old closed-off kitchen and make this entry feel like a great room, but it will remain with the same amount of bedrooms and bathrooms. This Unit B design is reflective a lot of the setbacks, so.
Can you zoom in?
Yes.
Oh, it's zooming.
Yeah. We have a large plan here I can pull up.
Yeah, there you go.
Show you. So, as we look at the building massing, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page with setbacks. So we have our 6-foot interior setback that we're going right up to with the building finish. We have a 15-foot building setback off of Soledad and a 20-foot garage setback, which we're complying with here. And then we have a 15-foot, another additional front yard setback here along Carpinteria. One thing I'd like to point out is we looked at, possibly having the garage on this interior side. 2 reasons kind of for that is one, there's an existing single-family residence over here. So creating this as a circulation kind of corridor, we thought provided more privacy for that house. And also when you get up to the top floor, it allows the living room to open up over these front yard areas and not view into any private yards. Since we reduced the scope of the project and took out a unit, there's no solar access restriction on the north side that we have to worry about. We've shown these last time, but here's the existing house. We're basically going to propose repainting this house, and then this is the area where we'll take out this metal gate and put a cedar fence. I've kind of already talked about this ground floor a little bit, but we have trash in the garage, we have a little storage space, and then the circulation on the single-family home side. That allows us to go upstairs and open up into a kitchen, living, dining room, 2 bedrooms, and we have a deck overlooking this 15-foot front yard. So that plays in a little bit into the setback requirements. Here's a quick note about the roof plan. There's 2 houses now on this property, and we're doing a little bit of jogs with the building to conform to setbacks on the 1st and 2nd story. So we kept the roof line really simple to not add complexity. The elevations of the building here, we see that 6-foot interior yard setback. On the Carpinteria Street side, we have that 15-foot setback, and up to 20 feet from the property line, we have to keep it under 15 feet. So we've incorporated a outdoor deck here, so kind of utilizing that setback space without going above 15 feet. It's more reflected here, and we're reducing the visual mass of it by building it into the roof line. There's a little articulation here on the bathroom just to make the bathroom work because the space was really that tight. It's like that with the parking area too. To have stairs, a walkway, clear space for the parking, it's right there. So we're doing our best to maximize it. This is the side of the house that faces is the other single-family home, so we've left it more blank to allow more privacy from that side. So we're focusing this house to its front yards. The client wants to repaint the exterior of the front, the remodel. And they've done some of this on other sites, so we're looking at doing a lighter color, some sort of white, kind of dove white or something like that, and then a charcoal trim that's a little more contemporary. And then keeping the same roof and then matching it on the new building color-wise. And then just a couple door selections here.
Okay. Do we need to look at landscape? Or have you reviewed it thoroughly?
I have looked at it, yeah.
Okay. So,
Just going to point out quick on this sheet
yeah,
here. that
sure.
This is the kind of the two main parts of the remodel, this little cedar fence that we're proposing here, as well as the trellis in front, which we are allowed to go up to 18 square feet as an exception into the setback. And I'll go to the landscape plan here. As well, we do not have the landscape architect with us today, but these are existing street trees. That was one of the comments that are to remain. And then an open area here and planting along the driveways was a big concern in the last meeting. So that's where we're focusing a lot of our attention. And that's all we have for you today. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Very good presentation. So we will open public comment.
Great. Thank you, Vice Chair Six. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I haven't received any speaker slips, and I don't see anyone in the audience, so we'll go ahead and move to virtual public comment. If you wish to speak on Zoom at this time, you can raise your hand and I'll call on you. I don't see any hands raised on Zoom, and we also did not receive any written correspondence for this item, so I'll turn it back over to you, Vice Chair Six.
All right, thank you. So we will close public comment and bring it back to questions from the board. Does anybody have questions? Ms. Anderson?
Yeah, do you have any existing photos of the neighbors at South Soledad Street? Next to the new unit?
No, not in this package.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And then you were saying that Unit B, that's this one, right, on South Soledad. You said there was a trash enclosure in the building or outside the building? I got confused.
The intent was that there could be trash bins in the garage.
Oh, in the garage?
Yeah, in the back of the garage. Yes. It was on the site plan. I don't show an outline, but let's see, sorry. As we're working through utilities and whatnot, we have extra space back here between the storage and in this area here where we're either going to create an enclosure here for the trash or hopefully within the garage was the best idea.
Okay. Okay, those are my questions.
All right, thank you.
Yes, a few simple questions, but first, Mr. Russell could use some of his technological prowess to zoom in on Google Earth in that area to address Member Anderson's question about the building to the south. And while he does that, if you could go to your image number 12. The trellis does not intersect with the house, does it? One of your plans actually shows that entry alcove as being out to the trellis as being floor area, but it's not.
Yeah, it doesn't actually intersect with the house. It'd be freestanding.
And it doesn't. Well, okay, thanks for that clarification. And on the new ADU unit, let's see, what was that? 7?
Can I just clarify it's not an ADU?
Yeah.
The density here allows for 2 units.
This is, just want to clarify.
Yeah, that's fine. No problem with that. But on the ADU, the bath pop out, isn't that now in the setback?
Yes, it currently is shown here.
So that would be something you'd have to address with the planning department.
It's been vetted, so this has been fully approved by zoning.
Oh,
So
right.
that's an allowed encroachment.
And while we're looking at that, if you could go to your elevations, I don't think you talked about any of the siding material and why you chose something different from the main house or the original one.
The plaster on the main house is, we consider acceptable if we
Yeah.
redo it, not redo it, repaint it. And they have had long-term tenants in there, so just kind of consideration of just adding cost to that has been kind of part of the conversation when they've had good tenants there. So this, we're planning to match more with color and neighborhood style.
But it's not plaster,
It's not plaster. It's going to be cement, cementinous material,
board
lap
siding
and cementous board.
and
board
painting.
batting.
Very good. Let's see. Oh, could you, on this number 2 east elevation, could you talk about those garage doors, please? What are we looking at there? Perhaps you could zoom in on that.
Yes, they would just be aluminum garage doors, so it would be a
What, are we looking at the different panel sections of the aluminum?
they would still be.
It looks like a grating. It looks like you took the grating off of the old carport and
Oh.
put it on here. So if you could clarify what we're looking at.
Lines.
Yeah, they would just be. It would just be a single aluminum panel, all one color. So it would. It's the double lines, I think, are kind of making it seem like it's more than it is intended to
It
be.
looks pretty elaborate.
Yeah, but it really is just meant to be.
But it's not.
Oh,
And is it a,
Like an aluminum
So there's
panel.
a joint? Those double lines?
no,
No.
is it a roll-up door?
Yes, it's a
And that
roll-up door.
accounts for the horizontal
Yep.
joinery and some of the other detailing?
Mhm.
Okay. I think that's all I had for questions. Thank you, Vice Chair Six.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Whalen. No questions, Mr. Noon? No, Mr. Black?
I just I needed a quick clarification. So if you go to the Carpinteria elevation, I guess, where it shows the front door.
Of the remodel?
Yeah, that one. Wait, yeah, that. So am I reading this right? That your front door, you've got that trellis overhead, you've got, what, 2 or 3 risers up to a little porch, I'm guessing?
Yep.
Is it open under there? It looks like,
Yeah, if I could go to site plan quick, I think I might be able to, floor plan here. So the roof line is continuous across the front here.
yeah.
And then the existing porch protrudes out past that a little bit.
Yeah, I meant, just when I looked at it in elevation, it looked as though there's a deck, but there's open space underneath it. Is it enclosed underneath there?
Oh.
No, not there, but the one,
Yeah, so this is.
yeah, that one.
It was a phasing detail in my model I can correct, sorry, but
Oh,
it
okay.
looks like this here where it's solid concrete.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's shown in the
Okay.
existing.
Thanks. I wondered.
Is that it?
My only questions.
All right. Did we get the Google?
So this was the view that Board Member Anderson requested. This is along Soledad. Carpinteria Street goes over here to the right. This is the subject property, and this is the neighboring home. And feel
Can
free
you
to.
move down further, closer to Carpinteria? Yeah, there you go.
And I can just
And
go
then-
around the block.
No. Back there, now zoom in.
Here?
Yep. Okay. That's best we can. Well, I know a better question then is, what does that elevation look like? Where are the windows and what are they used for? On the new unit?
This is the side of the unit that faces that house. So this is a entryway at the first story here. This is a staircase, so you don't really look out at. This is a bathroom, and then this is a bedroom window and that lower bedroom area window.
Could those windows easily be moved over to the west elevation and do the same thing? I don't know, is there a privacy issue here? There might be a privacy issue here.
I think that's a good suggestion, and I was just kind of looking at the layout of the rooms and how you enter and how the bed might fit, and I think it would be acceptable to move them.
Okay, that probably would be a wise idea to, it might not be an issue with the other house, but we don't have time to fool with that. Or it's not worth fooling with. And I think that re-roofing was an issue because part of the previous one was had to be newly roofed and
I
so
think you're
forth.
exactly right.
Yes.
We had enough proposed new.
Okay, so those are my questions. Oh, well, a question kind of moving into comments. The configuration of the balcony on the second floor of this new unit, it seems to, is there, I don't know.
Okay.
It's just,
Elevation.
it's just really consuming the roof line of that. And bothers me a little bit. Do you know what I mean? It's really obliterating.
Yeah,
the
I
roof.
guess the first thought is maybe if you center it a little more, it might
Yeah.
lose it a little more in the roof line that already exists.
Can you have it, well, yeah.
Yeah, I think
I'll
that
leave it
would
with
be,
that.
that sort of adjustment with how the floor plan lays out could reduce it and center it a little more, so it's not this kind of offset mass.
But
that
you're
you see.
working really tightly with the setback, correct?
Yes.
So you can't have a balcony that protrudes beyond the bottom wall line.
No.
Yeah, okay.
No.
All right, so comments?
All right, since we're staying on this sheet, I would consider also for interior circulation purposes and making your living room a little bit more practical for layout, switching that door to the balcony and the window, and then you could shift your balcony over to make it a little bit more proportional in that elevation. I would update your garage doors like we discussed so that it's more acceptable with the architectural style you're going for. I would flip those bedroom windows to the west. I would consider the trash to be more accessible for instead of the back of the garage, just practical reasons for getting it out to the street. I would consider I'll look forward to a light fixture, maybe a little bit more appropriate in size than what's identified on the elevations. The south elevation, oh, no, okay. And I think those are my comments.
All right, thank you, Ms. Anderson. Mr. Whalen?
Thank you, Vice Chair. Six, since the ADU, since the new structure is new to us, that's really where all of my comments are going to be. Used to be a carport, right, and now it's a full-blown building. Well, I think it's actually rather cute. The east elevation, I think it works its way massing and scale-wise into the community very well. I would like to see the design take a distinctive point of view about what style it is. I sense it's tending toward craftsman. It could, if that's true, it could use more details, such as you've done around the entry Yes, that module there, the small window in the door, the window above the door. Perhaps you could consider doing away with the horizontal sliders and going with all multi-pane windows, some brackets, some exposed, some of the details that are more so if you choose to go with Craftsman. Right now, it's very non-committal. The west elevation being the one that's related to the existing building is rather blank. And if, for purposes of privacy for the neighbor, some of the window could move from the bedroom around to that room, I think it'd be a much more handsome and amenable neighbor to the existing building. Right now, it looks rather thoughtless as turning its back, really, to its progenitor. Let's see. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Whalen. Mr. Noon?
I really don't have anything else to say. I was gonna comment that, typically for PDA, we see a study of those adjacent properties and, and how that relates to privacy, but it sounds like previous comments have addressed that with maybe different placement of the windows, so really nothing to add.
I don't have anything else.
All right, I think it's light for project design approval, but the nature of the project, I think I think it's ready for PDA. And I support the bedroom, the north upper and lower floor windows moving around to the west. And to deal with the burying the trash in the back of the garage is kind of awkward. It's not an architectural, but it probably will result in some architectural change. And Mr. Whalen, I respectfully don't think that this needs to go much heavier on details. It's a minute building and cute as it is, so I do agree that the sliders are unfortunate and could go to casements with cut-ups and so forth, but I wouldn't go crazy with detailing. Those are my comments, so appreciate you responding to our previous comments, especially in regards to adequate site development. Is anybody ready to make a motion? Let's see, this would be, well, I'll make a motion for project design approval with the following comments that the on the new unit, the first and second floor windows on the right-hand side of these north elevation should be moved to the west elevation. To restudy accessing the trash to the new unit, to provide casement windows or more traditional windows in the new unit instead of the sliders. What have I missed?
I think you covered it.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Then would the Vice Chair 6 to the board, would you be interested in sending this project to consent?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, this would be indefinite continuance.
Did you want to add about the garage? Did I hear that?
Excuse
The garage
me?
door? Did I hear that added?
Yeah, to refine at least the rendering of of that door and bring it into a look that's harmonious with the architecture. And I'm missing something. We need to do project design.
What about, do you want to add anything about the balcony? Or do you want to let it go?
Yeah, I would take a look at repositioning the balcony to honor the lower gable more.
Would that be studied? Studied that? Or? I would.
Your study.
Way back.
Revise, okay, revise the balcony.
So we'll go with revise.
Yes, okay. Let's see, what else do we need? We need compatibility.
Correct.
So this project is compatible because of the following. It is consistent with the guidelines of the location of the project. Number two, it's compatible with the architectural character of the city and the neighborhood within its, with where it sits. Three, it's appropriate size, mass, bulk, and scale. There's no sensitivity to, there's no adjacent landmarks or historic resources affected. There are no public views of ocean and mountains affected, and there is open space and landscaping appropriate to this project. So I think that completes our motion. Does anybody need to have that read back? All right, so I think have a motion on the table.
All right, Vice Chair Six?
Yes.
Board Member Anderson? Yes. Board Member Black?
Yes.
Board Member Noon?
Yes.
Board Member Whalen?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then we just need to list the 10-day appeal period, and then we can adjourn. the
Yes, given
meeting.
that, and project design approval, there is a 10-day appeal process as instructed on the board.
And we may adjourn.
And we may adjourn. Yeah, of course.